More breaking news from overnight here. A person of interest in the deadly shooting at Broward University was detained and now released.
Law enforcement authorities there determined that there was no basis to keep that person in custody. Your reporter Taylor Knight live in our studio now with the latest developments from just the last few hours. So what do we know?
Well, this unfortunately is a major setback in the investigation into this shooting that left 2 students dead and 9 others injured. The release of this lone person of interest now leaves police without any known suspects. On Sunday morning, officials took a person of interest into custody at a Hampton Inn hotel in Coventry, Rhode Island, about 20 miles from Providence. That person was released just hours ago. Rhode Island's Attorney General said that although some evidence had pointed to that person of interest, the evidence now points in a different direction. The gunman opened fire inside of a classroom in the university's engineering building during final exams, firing more than 40 rounds from a 9mm handgun. Police say that 2 handguns were recovered when that person of interest was taken into custody, and authorities also found 2 loaded 30-round magazines. Now they continue to follow leads and search for anything that might have been caught on video surveillance.
The investigation continues to progress extremely fast. We're in the process of collecting evidence and seizing items that we need to seize, search locations that we need to search.
1 student has been released from the hospital at this point. 8 others still remain in the hospital. So far, police have not identified any of the victims. Your reporter live in studio, Taylor Knight, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.